the Smart Woman Podcast, a podcast series brought to you by Gabriela Mueller Coaching International. Your useful dose of coaching advice to help you get what you want more often with less trouble. Gabriela dives into big questions about what matters to women like you in the workplace. It's concrete, focused, and fun. Gabriela's coaching impacts thousands of women worldwide. Welcome to the Smart Woman Podcast. Now your host, Gabriela Mueller.
Welcome! Bienvenidas! Hello, women from around the world. Yes, you are in the right place. The Smart Woman Podcast. This is the place where you are going to get inspiration, ideas, tools, strategies that work. Because when you use them wisely, they make your life easier, you get what you want, you build solid, good relationships, and who doesn't want that, right? Good. Welcome. I'm Gabriela Mueller, your coach and host. In today's episode, we have something that is so juicy that I can't wait to talk about it. And by the way, this is a topic that through social media, lots of people who listen to the Smart Woman podcast or who follow me on social media have suggested as one of those hot topics where you want to tackle it, explore it, and also get strategies on how to deal with it. And that, my dear, is the queen bee. And you know the B stands for something that I don't want to say it in this podcast because otherwise I would have to change the category of the type of podcast in this episode, and I want to keep it really, really clean. And so now let's just make sure that when I say the B word or the queen bee or catty woman, I'm referring to what a lot of people would refer to a person who's absolutely bossy in the way they behave, in a dictatorial, domineering fashion. And they're called bossy, or they use the B word, when they try to order people around and refuse to listen to authority figures. They're not supportive of others. They're telling people what to do without really listening to them or getting to know them. And what I want to say is there are bossy people, not only what a lot of people would say bossy women, because I want to make sure that after this episode we have strategies to override this rhetoric and also to change this reality. And before we get there, I want to invite you to join me and create this conversation, enrich this with content or questions or comments. Follow me on Twitter, Gabriela Mueller, Instagram, Coach Gabriela Mueller, or Facebook, Gabriela Mueller Coaching. And if you are serious about getting more strategies, you want to go and visit www.gabrielamueller.com and sign up for the newsletter, because a lot of these things in a more concrete and visual way can get to you via email. Okay, so let's dive into the topic with 3 chunks of information. 1, does she exist? That queen bee or catty woman? Or is it some kind of perception or misguided idea that still people see or believe they have in organizations or in society? That's my first question. The second one is, if so, where does she come from? What is the origin? What is the theory? What is the research saying? And is it true? And does it happen only in organizations? Do we have them already in schools and in the way we are bringing up young talent and girls in society? And the last part that I want you to get is 5 strategies that you can apply, because if you are witnessing any of this in your work or in your life, I want you to have 5 ideas that concretely can work and get you to work not only better with women, support them, lift them up, but also get the support that you need from other women, whether they are in your level or maybe levels above in your organization. This can play a very important role in your career. I know it has in mine, and I want to share with you a couple of stories or anecdotes because I have seen them pretty much a little bit of everything. Women who have supported my way, tons of them, amazing women from around the world, and otherwise you can go and check out my website and see a lot of evidence of that. At the same time, I have been fortunate enough also to have the endorsement and support from men. And I can concretely recall 2 or 3 in my early years within the information and technology sector where I started my corporate career. And I remember that some of them were at the same level or where I was, and many of them 2 or 3 levels above. And I remember their words. They saw something that they liked in me, whether it was the enthusiasm of a young IT person starting up to discover the corporate world and its magic, or maybe they saw the focus or the dedication or the perseverance. Whatever they saw, they were able to then coach me or mentor me or recommend my work to other persons. So that's called the endorsement, right? And I recall having received in many occasions feedback from men and resisting the temptation to take it personal and then using what could serve me. At the same time, I had to learn to receive feedback from female colleagues and then filter, because being able to see that you're getting golden nuggets from somebody who cares for your success and your career, it's key. And a lot of people will report that women giving feedback to women is being seen sometimes as a competitive strategy or a critic that would come out of envy or bad competition feelings or being not supportive to each other. And so this is one of the things that has helped me and has served a lot of women who I coach see the critics and the constructive feedback that comes from another female colleague, whether it's your level or above, as something that can serve you and not something that is there to harm you or to compete against your performance. Now, I have to tell you that I come from a family with structure of female figures who were very strong and determined, and in many cases, the breadwinners at home, and those being part of my grandmothers and my mom, who was able to do amazing things and almost work out magic and to bring 3 girls all the way to further education. And she did this pretty much on her own. So I was able to see her in her strong breadwinner role and at the same time as a caring figure for the family inside the home. And that also has shaped through role modeling who I am today and who I have become and I'm becoming as I still evolve as person, as a coach. And so I'm asking you now, have you been supported by other women? If so, when? Why? Who did this? And let me then now take you to the next question, which is, are you supporting other women grow and thrive and progress? And what about our future generations? Are we impacting these young female millennials with good role modeling and showing really how leadership can be and the benefits of women supporting women, which, by the way, are enormous. We know that when women support women and open up opportunities for each other, they are stronger together. They outperform any competition and they build such resilience and perseverance together that they're non-stoppable. And I can only say good things every time that a woman has been able to extend her hand and support me, or open up a gate for me, or connected me to a problem or to a resource or to a piece of information or to a person who then, because of that connection or because of that link, something positive happened. So I can go over and over and talk about the people who I have met, for example, in the sports movement, who have impacted the world and together with me trained and coached women worldwide in 5 continents. And what about the female entrepreneurs who are solving social problems here and there in even my home country, Mexico? And I have been already 20 years in Switzerland, and I see them tackling community problems at the school level and at the government level. When women support each other and lift each other up, we are non-stoppable. And that doesn't mean we're here to replace men. We're here to work with them as team members, as real team mates. Now, in every episode, I also give you some results out of research and studies that have been done and made around the world that support a view. And in this particular episode, I couldn't go on without quoting Sheryl Sandberg in one of her studies because she started a great movement called leanin.org. And by the way, I am also a Lean In circle leader here in the capital of Switzerland, in Bern. And her research shows over and over, and this is confirmed by so many other different very serious studies done out there. And the fact is that when a woman becomes more successful, her likability factor doesn't necessarily follow. In fact, research shows that success and likability are negatively correlated for women and positively correlated for men. In other words, my dear, it's very likely that when a man becomes more successful and he goes up on the ladder, he is more liked by both men and women. And when a woman goes up the ladder, that doesn't necessarily happen the same way. And the surprising factor might be that it comes from both men and women. So here's where we can see the potential to grow. We can already start shaking some of these stereotypes and gender bias whenever we see them, whenever we catch ourselves thinking or acting upon stereotypes or gender biases ourselves. And I mean, even me as a diversity and communications coach, sometimes I catch myself without thinking when I'm in autopilot mode, being, for example, more understanding of male colleagues than female colleagues when it comes to things so basic stuff like maybe I asked him for a favor and he said, no, I'm busy. If I ask her for a favor, that means a female colleague, and she's busy and she says, no, I can't, I'm busy. In my mind, for a split of a second, I would judge her or criticize her more harshly than my male colleague who just did exactly the same. And whenever I catch myself, I flip it to test it, meaning, would I be thinking the same way if she was a he? And in that second, I realized, interesting. I'm being judgmental, or I should just give her exactly the same understanding that I gave my male colleague as he said, no, I'm busy. All right, so I invite you to raise awareness. Are you also being part of this game of bias and stereotyping women in power or in leadership? So next time that we see a woman raising her hand and say, I disagree, or asserting herself, or giving a direct, firm piece of feedback to somebody, or saying no, or setting a boundary, or expressing her idea, suggesting a different way to do things, or disagreeing. Can we just stop there for a moment and say, she's exercising assertiveness, leadership in action. She's honoring her values or her vision, instead of, oh my God, she's been difficult, or she's putting up resistance, or she wants to play her part, or she wants to show off. All these things that come along with the description of the queen bee, or the bossy women, or catty women. Okay? So if we catch ourselves doing it, we are the first ones who can role model the best practices. So you can now choose not to say anything or simply to endorse her. Even better, because remember, women that lift each other up, in fact, they both win. And that was my first suggestion. Second, giving a verbal, expressive endorsement openly when it's authentic and genuine, it can go a long way. Listen to the two different types of words that I'm going to tell you about Rebecca. If I was to introduce you to Rebecca, I would say, oh, she's Rebecca, she works in IT. Nice to meet you. Or if I know something about Rebecca's performance, I might say something like, hey, let me introduce you to Rebecca. She's part of the top 20 new people that IT hired this year. And in my project, we are already starting to see why, because she's great. And so that's Rebecca. Nice to meet you. Did you hear the difference? And it was only a few seconds more. So first, I must know Rebecca's performance because, of course, that's an endorsement where also my name and my reputation is going on top of that, so of course. And at the same time, I'm making already Rebecca's life easier as she joins perhaps a male-dominated team, and it's already a way to ease the path for both of us. Let's not also forget that when you praise with authentic recognition other people, that also is speaking also for yourself. And that applies for the good and for the bad, meaning if you speak badly about somebody in their backs, without any doubt, whatever you say, it will immediately reflect on you in front of your listener's perception. So you really want to be very smart about it. So endorsement is a powerful tool which you don't give lightly, and when you give it generously and in an authentic way. Okay, here is another strategy that you're going to love. Actually, it comes from Obama's former team, who described that in hectic meetings, they had to be to the point and very concise, and women in the team would notice that if a woman would be interrupted in the middle of her sentence or while explaining a point, another woman would pick up the same idea or the same concept again sometime during the meeting. A few minutes later, they would bring it up again and they would name their female colleagues' names to go back and ask for a clarification or ask them to expand the question or the idea that they had before. And it would sound something like this. Say that perhaps in this case, Rebecca was explaining an idea and she had been interrupted. Without the ability to continue, the meeting went on. And then Mary, here on the other side, would notice this and then, using a positive attitude, would bring the same topic back and would ask her colleague to repeat it. And it would sound something like this. Hey, Rebecca, before we continue, you were saying something about project in Q1. And it seems to me that what you were explaining could be very positive in this case. So can you please explain or expand a little bit more? Do you hear that? Okay, this is a technique that women can use to support each other in meetings without overusing it. Because what you don't want is that Mary and Rebecca are just passing on the ball as if they were having a dialogue between the two of them, right? So what you want is, if you have a situation where women would often be interrupted or not credited for their ideas, well, you might want to build up that team spirit with the other woman or the other women in the team. And have an open conversation about it, how you're going to make each other being heard and being valued. You don't have to be alone in this effort. And that, chicas, is called echoing, because that's what you're doing. You're being an echo of somebody else's idea that got interrupted or somebody got distracted and needs to be completed. You're being supportive of a female colleague in a meeting. Use it, don't overuse it, and also don't pick the most challenging meeting to try this on. Pick something where you are in low stress situation and you can play with this technique, try it on and see how it serves you. And the last idea that I want to suggest on how to override this is something called flip it to test it. And you can Google it out there because it comes from an amazing woman who's also my contact in LinkedIn. Her name is Kirsten Presner, and she gave an absolute fantastic mind-blowing TED Talk with that title, Are You Biased? And it was about this technique that she came up with, flip it to test it, based on the fact that our brain would look for filters and patterns, will sometimes simplify information for us, and sometimes it will just simply limit our decisions and outcomes. So when you flip a situation to test it, it will reveal perhaps an autopilot reaction you had. For example, if Mary says something about, maybe she's asserting herself and people react badly or think she's too direct or too whatever, raising the question of, I wonder if Mary would have been Peter. If that reaction could have come from a man, would we be talking about the same thing? Or would we have the same idea? And so my experience is, when you raise a question like that, in a non-confrontational way, keep it in a positive attitude, people in the room might go first silent and then go, interesting approach. Just that's already a golden nugget for you, because you're helping people flip an idea, test it the other way, and it can work for any minority. Right now, we're talking about things that have to do with diversity and gender. You can apply in other ways as well. So that's it. Chicas, I leave you with a powerful quote that I love. Girls compete against each other. Women lift each other up. Let's connect. Twitter, Gabriela Mueller. Instagram, Coach Gabriela Mueller. Facebook, Gabriela Mueller Coaching. And if you are serious about getting more strategies, go and check out my website, www.gabrielamueller.com, and sign up for this bite-sized learning that only comes to you via email. All right, chicas, I wish you a successful day until next time in the Smart Woman podcast. Hasta la vista!